What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of builders across Web3. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the DeRec Alliance and the future of digital asset recovery. So if you've ever lost a password, a wallet, or access to something important online, you know how stressful and sometimes impossible it can be to get that back. DeRec is aiming to change that by creating a universal decentralized standard for recovery that works across platforms and ecosystems. Today, we're joined by an incredible panel. Dr. Lehman Baird, co-founder of Hedera and the visionary behind DeRec, alongside another visionary ecosystem behind DeRec, which is the Algorand ecosystem. We've got Mark, leading strategy and marketing behind Algorand Foundation, Mei Chan of Hashpack, and Ben, co-founder, CEO of MultiversX. How's everybody doing today? This is going to be an awesome conversation. I'm excited for this one.
Great to be here. Pleasure, guys.
I want to start with kind of to hear everybody's stories, what your own connection is to DeRec. What was the moment that kind of made you think, yeah, this could fix a pretty big problem in crypto? Maybe I'll start with you, Mark. I know that you, Algorand Foundation, alongside the Hedera ecosystem, kind of founding this. So, Mark, I would love to hear from your standpoint.
Yeah,
what made you kind of join?
The honors to go to Lehman, because Lehman was the person who came up with the idea and the concept, and then we were of course more than happy to join the alliance, because we think it's a really big problem. And I think, you know, if everybody can go back in time and think about the first time they actually discovered crypto, and the first time they actually had to write down those 24 passwords and be nervous about like what happens if you lose them. Like, I still remember doing this myself, and it was like, oh my goodness, am I doing this right? And if I don't do it right, I'm going to lose my money. And it's stressful. And I think everybody who basically entered into crypto the first time they did this felt this level of stress. And so I think we'll never really get to like a full mass adoption if we don't take that stress factor away. And that's why I think this is such an exciting project.
Lehman, I would love to hear it from you, because I know there's lots of content out there, but I would love if you could kind of just give us what was kind of the aha moment for you and why this was such a big problem to solve in crypto blockchain.
But everybody knows this is such a big problem. So, you know, there's the guy in England who keeps trying to get permission to go into the landfill and try to find his hard drive. And there's the guy in Canada whose heirs don't know his password and it's just gone. You know, it's like $100 million. The problem here is that we all are used to having a safety net, and there is no safety net now. And we're just not wired to understand that. And it's just a disaster. And so I am so grateful to Algorand and our other partners. You know, Ripple and Cardano formed the DeRec Alliance to deal with this problem because it's just such a big problem. And I am so grateful to the other people on this call.
Ben, I would love, you know, MultiversX, one of the, well, I think the most recent ecosystem to join the DeRec Alliance. And what was kind of the ethos? I know that you guys have ties to 2FA kind of directly within the ecosystem, which is, you know, just awesome. Security and safety are certainly paramount in this space. I would love if you could tell, you know, maybe the story of how you guys decided to end up joining.
100%. So again, really great to be here and hear the stories and sort of add a bit of a contribution to the conversation. Look, I do believe that this is, as our colleagues here have mentioned, one of the largest costs that we've been silently paying to the adoption of this technology, where billions of dollars are silently lost forever. And we're just seeing the money flow as we go through our lives. And you always hope that it never affects you. Like, you're not one of the lucky ones that loses a seed phrase to tens of millions of dollars and so on. That it's a nice problem to have, to make those millions of dollars, but then to lose them, I cannot imagine. But I think every one of us has, in some form or another, gone through that problem, like lost at least some seed phrase and never recovered it. And you almost take it for granted for a long time that's the cost, that you should be more careful, more attentive, meticulous. But it's only when you flip the switch a bit and zoom out and say, hey, if I were to rebuild something from scratch, how would I tackle this for billions of users so that they don't pay the price that we pay or we've paid up until this point. So I love the initiative, the efforts that are being done to surface these problems, make sure that we understand the challenges that are too silent, and until they hit you, you don't see them every day. But at the same time, I feel there's so many solutions, and there are these very simple, almost magical solutions where if you apply something like a 2FA by default for any user that comes in, at least starting from today, you'd be in a very different place just because you don't have to lose that money. So we're very excited to be part of the conversation. And I think maybe the 2FA element should be almost like a common sense standard that everyone embeds. You can go even further than that with digital testaments and things like that. But that seems like a reasonable starting point to stop paying billions of dollars to this maybe flaw that we've embedded in the initial technology.
I definitely want to mention DeRecAlliance.org for you guys to, I'm going to kind of intermittently kind of drop that in throughout the stream here. But May, I know from your stance on Hedera, as you know, from Hashpack's standpoint, kind of being the ecosystem wallets, it was interesting at HederaCon in February, you were kind of talking about wallets as ecosystem gateways. And I know that you guys have been contributing into DeRec kind of since very, very, very early on. I would love your thought process too, why it was so important to join the initiative, and not only to join, but to actively contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been part of the DeRec Alliance for 2 years now, and we've been following since 2022 when Lehman first was talking about it. And we were like, oh, this actually sounds like a really, really good idea. Because as the other people on the panel have said today, like we're a non-custodial wallet, and we largely support just seed phrase based accounts, which means you have to manage your own secrets, your own keys, and you can't protect them if they lose it because we don't have access to your keys, right? As a non-custodial wallet, that's just like fundamental to security. So you can't compromise on that. But then how do you protect users so that they don't lose their keys when they have full control over it? And I think that DeRec is a way to keep that key and secret management decentralized and in their complete control, but it's intuitive enough that you can just explain it and people understand, and you can put in systems in, say, a wallet or in another platform that just give you reminders, that give you like simple cues that say you don't have enough shares or helpers to protect your secret, please update them, things like that. So I think it's a very intuitive and innovative system that can protect us going forward.
100%. Well, I want to, May, you kind of lead me in here nicely. And this is open to anybody. So not everybody needs to answer this because it's going to be the same answer for everybody anyways. So whoever wants to take it. If a non-technical friend, which is essentially anybody that's not in blockchain and distributed ledger technology right now is a non-technical friend, or a family member were to lose their crypto, access to their crypto wallet today, how would you help them right now? And I guess the follow-up to that is, how would that story play out differently if, you know, with DeRec? So whoever wants to take that one, feel free, please.
You know, I've received emails from just random people in our ecosystem saying, oh, hey, I lost my 24 words. Could you generate new ones for me? No. See, this is the whole point of our industry, is to let you own it yourself. You have your own control and your own responsibility, and you are out of luck. So if I had a family member who lost their 24 words and had never backed it up and didn't have DeRec, how would I help them? I would give them a shoulder to cry on. There is nothing else you can do. That is the extent of my help. What we need is a system where they can recover, where they can go to friends and family, or they can go to trusted institutions. They can get back the pieces and put them together themselves. So no other person can control it. You know, you could just give it to a custodian, but then you have to trust the custodian. What you really want to do is break it up into pieces to many custodians, many helpers, and then you can trust it. And so that's what I would do to help my family and friends, is I would make sure they're using something like DeRec. And it's also automatically checking that your helpers still have it every day. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, please.
And I think this whole idea of self-sovereignty is like so core to crypto, right? Like, not your keys, not your coins. But it is impossible for humans to keep secrets safely and secure. Like, we're not wired that way. And so, think about the keys to your house. Like, what happens if you lose your keys? Well, most people will basically give spare keys to their neighbors or their friends, so that if they're locked out, they can actually call their friends, and their friends can kind of help them out. So the same thing needs to happen here, is you basically give your keys or portions of your keys to your friends, and then the system automatically reconstitutes it for you. And that's the way there needs to be a backup solution like that is completely intuitive. That's actually almost pretty much invisible to the user, because that's the only security mechanism that is sustainable and that will work while keeping with the overall promise of self-sovereignty.
And I think maybe just to take the two contrasting views here, I think this is the paradox that brings us at the bridge between the worlds. The crypto world, which is usually hardcore people, like brilliant people on the edge that love this type of technologies, and the average person that could not be more far from everything that we're discussing. And so the question is, indeed, what's the path that can be the path of least resistance, where you almost not only grant the highest level of security, but then also make it so default and invisible that it just works as you would use it everywhere else. And I loved what both Lehman and Mark were saying, because it's sort of what we've been building with Xportal, which is just, we've taken this idea of the on-chain 2FA, where it's totally decentralized. You have a simple on-chain service. You have 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, however you want to set it up. But once you have something like that, you can embed it in any type of application, because the client enables you to go in something like a super app or wallet like Xportal, and then you activate your Guardian. Then once you activate your Guardian service, by default, you can never lose that again. And the cool part is you can even invite the scammers to attack you, because no one, if they get your seed, can steal your money anymore. And I think that's almost a kind of 99 percentile solution to the biggest problem. Of course, you'll have always other problems as you scale upwards, but I believe that's maybe super simple and then still matches the highest level grade of security that you'd want to begin the conversation, and ideally not be in the situation where you offer the shoulder to cry on, which is almost inevitable, if you ask me.
I want to ask May briefly. I'll move over to you real quick, kind of in the same vein, man. Congrats. I know you guys are, from like the, I won't even use the word wallet. I'll just use gateway. From the gateway standpoint, I mean, you guys are kind of at this position where you are almost like acting as infrastructure within the ecosystem as well. So congrats today. I know you guys are the first live integration of Blockade. That was a Hashgraph initiative that just went live. Again, we're talking about security and kind of spam prevention and everything else. But May, I guess from your stance, like maybe just briefly, how important is it for Hashpack to get, weigh the difference between user experience and safety, like always trying to make sure that there's kind of that balance, but just broadly, like on your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot of alternatives today to having to write down your seed phrase and protect that. You can use a custodial solution, like Lehman said. We, in our wallet, as the kind of top level default one, we have an email-based login system, which is offered through Magic Link, and that uses email as a sort of 2FA kind of thing. And it gives us a little bit more leeway into helping people, and people understand email-based login better than writing down a seed phrase. So there are things that you can do that make it more intuitive for users, that give them less chance to mess up, lose their stuff. But these systems, custodial systems, Magic Link, like they get there, but maybe like 90% of the way, they don't quite hit self-sovereignty. And so you still have that trust that you have to have, or you have to trust that they stay in business. You can't forget about it for 10 years and then come back and then, oh, they're gone and you can't get it again. But for the most part, for most users, it's good enough. And they're not securing millions and millions of dollars. If there's anyone who's securing millions and millions of dollars, I hope that you're either using your own seed phrase or you're paying an enterprise-based like custodial system that has insurance that is like guaranteed to do it. But then you're losing out on other benefits of crypto. So, there's trade-offs for everything. But I think that DeRec is a really good piece because it sort of lets you have your cake and eat it too. It kind of, you have your self-sovereignty, you own your seed phrase, you have to manage your keys, but now there's a tool to help you recover your keys and it's decentralized and you don't have to trust anyone to do it. Well, you don't have to trust your friends, but you have to put it with a bunch of friends and family, right? Or systems or whatever, but there's ways to keep it under your control and in an intuitive way, which is really what's important. Because people don't understand seed phrases, they don't understand how to secure things for a long time. For example, ledger. You think you put your ledger in your safety deposit box. If you come back after 10 years and that USB is dead, you better hope you wrote that seed phrase down on a piece of paper next to that ledger, right? So that
actually happened to me with the original version of Ledger Nano. The ledger just like totally it just like died. I couldn't access it at all. Luckily, I wrote it down. And
luckily, you wrote it down, right?
I want to. No, go ahead, May. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, this is a tool. This is a paradigm that I think will be really easy to adopt.
I want to zoom out a little bit. I think we're all kind of leading towards why initiatives like DeRec, these kind of open standards initiatives, anybody can join. Agnostic technology. It doesn't have to be about any one network. I mean, the founding members are really impressive within, all the members are really impressive within DeRec. You can kind of take a look right here of kind of where we're at right now. But I want to zoom out maybe just briefly here and ask maybe everybody's kind of thoughts just briefly on what they think an initiative like DeRec looks like if successful. Like if it really takes off, what's kind of the measure of success for you guys? I'm sure it's different. I'm sure everybody's different here. I'll start with you, Lehman.
Yes. So this is what humanity needs. And we don't just need a system for doing backups. We need it to be interoperable. We need a standard. So anyone could sit down and make such a standard, but then you could only have your own helpers. And each helper would have to use the same system as the people that are using them, the owners of the secrets. What you need is a standard. And everyone we talk to agrees, yes, humanity desperately needs something like this, and it needs to be a single standard. And if someone doesn't like our standard, then join the DeRec Alliance and you can change our standard. But humanity needs a single standard. Success is that we see it roll out in wallets in the Web3 world. And then when we see that, so our world understands decentralization. So decentralized recovery is a natural fit. But this is just the beginning. Then we roll it out to password managers. This is purely the Web 2 world. But the Web 2 world needs it as much as the Web 3 world. And the whole idea of being decentralized is a little bit weird for them, but the use case is compelling. The reasons for it are compelling. And so we roll out to that and we get some of the password managers to do it. And then eventually we get it built into iOS and Android so that the built-in password manager is using it. And I say passwords, but also passkeys. And also secret credentials inside of an identity. Identity is so important. So identity management systems. So what we need is, as humanity, we are moving to a world where everything is digital and everything is based on a secret that only you have. And we are not prepared for that. We are just not prepared, ordinary people. And so success is that we roll this out so that it is a universal standard and everyone is using the same standard and everyone can use each other as helpers. And there can be helper services that can help everyone. That is success.
Benjamin, I saw you on mute, or Ben, I saw you on mute there for a second. If you wanted to add anything, or I can move on.
Yeah, so I would just add on what Lehman was mentioning, in the sense that a simple, visible, and probably great metric is just maybe showing money that has been saved. Because any type of wallet that has this, and you would showcase in a visible way that this money is saved from going to trash. literally going to trash. And then that amount becomes larger than the amount that is unsaved. As it scales and grows, I believe that would be super obvious for people how large of an impact it is, how critical and vital it is. And just to add on the specifics, I do agree that in some sense, embedding this and making it universal is the only way. And then thinking how much it adds and how much it is in some sense not about decentralization, but actually the benefits that decentralization bring, that actually the entire world really wants at scale, which is censorship resistance. So the fact that you have something and it's recoverable is one property. You want for everything you have that's digital to have that property, and then scale it. But then to have the element of censorship resistance, I believe will become so vital and crucial during the coming weeks, months, and so on, especially with the increasing powers of AIs, agents, fake realities, and so on, that these two properties you'll want to think about regardless of whether you're in crypto or just your normal life. It seems so common sense and so vital that it's almost everything else should be after you solve this. Once this is solved and embedded, and as Lehman mentioned, interoperability should be, again, so common sense that why would you not use something like that if it adds this value and immediately saves you the pain of actually going through that? And if that doesn't convince you, I mean, it's fine to lose some money first and then learn the lesson and come back. Because I think it has happened to us. Most of these lessons come after you hit your head against the wall a few times, and then you learn the hard lesson, and then you want to solve something.
I kind of want to also, I totally agree. And I want to kind of reinforce the standards point as well. Like, it is so critical. And so we in crypto are like not very good at this. Like, you know, like Lehman could have created the Hedera backup solution, and Algorand could have created an Algorand backup solution. And so, and that's what typically happens in this industry. Like, we all create the standards for our own chain. And then, but then the collaboration across chains is where things typically tend to fall apart. And so I think it's so critical that we move to kind of across crypto, and as Lehman says, even beyond crypto, standards-based approach where we all kind of work together on solving the big problems that cause that holds our industry back. And so it needs to be a non-partisan tech. You know, it needs to be based on off-the-shelf crypto. It needs to be standardized across all chains. And so this is absolutely critical for the success of crypto as a whole, I think, specifically in this particular case where this pain point is so important to solve.
I think we're at kind of this point right now, too. It's been interesting over the past year and a half or so. We are starting to kind of see some of these, I guess I would say, industry standards that kind of blend between different, ecosystems, which is always, kind of interesting. And it shows a sign of maturity, as Mark mentions, like all of the kind of internal infrastructure stuff. It's nice to see initiatives like DeRec and kind of the crossing over between different networks like the Hedera ecosystem and Algorand and MultiversX. Like, that stuff normally comes, at least from an outsider looking in, myself saying this, it's kind of like a sign of maturity in this space. You don't see that happening with networks that are 6 months or a year old. You see it happening with networks that are years old that already have that infrastructure in place. I want to ask Lehman, or anybody here, but I'll maybe start with Lehman, because I think we're all leading in towards, as I mentioned to May, kind of this blend of security and user experience. Should people even know that they're using DeRec when they're using it, or should it just quietly protect them in the background?
Yes, the answer is both. But, Benjamin mentioned it needs to be invisible. Mark mentioned it needs to be invisible. May mentioned, custodians aren't ideal, but they're the 90% solution. We need to be moving in this direction and setting it up for people. Look, the average person doesn't want to deal with complexity, doesn't want to understand these things. You need to set it up. And we have people setting up right now for banks and for credit unions, two different organizations, where when you set up your account with the bank or the credit union, you get a crypto wallet, and it automatically picks two other banks or two other credit unions, and the three of them together are your helpers invisibly Automatically, you don't have to know about it. You don't have to think about it. You just get that level of protection. And then if you are an expert, you could add more helpers. You can remove those helpers. Maybe you don't trust those helpers. Fine, go get some more of your own. You have total control. You have the self-sovereignty. It's your keys, your crypto, but it's invisible for the person who doesn't know any better. And we have got to set up these invisible safety nets for people, because today if I lose the password to my bank, I know I can get it somehow. I can go into my bank and show them my driver's license. I can go to a court and get back. There's some safety net, and people just assume everything in life has a safety net. And so we have got to make it invisible. And then for the experts, better than that, you can actually do it manually, but it has to start invisible.
Yeah, and I think it has to be invisible, but there has to be some sort of a mark or some sort of a sign, like call it like the Intel Insight sign that says basically, if you see this sign, it means you're safe.
Yeah.
It
Verified.
So or verified by DeRec or like whatever we come up with, but there needs to be some sort of a mark that is a trusted mark that people can recognize and say, okay, with this, I see this sign, I'm safe.
Yes, Mark is good. Thank you, Mark, for the Mark idea.
I think Ben's idea too is awesome. And I know, Ben, you're going to go here in a sec, but I love the idea of almost like a live ticker up in the corner that shows funds saved anytime DeRec kicks in, which should be all the time, as Lehman's mentioned before, because all the devices are constantly pinging each other.
Yeah.
You almost have that live ticker. That was cool too. But Ben, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go for it.
No, I do believe that the invisibility of it is only with respect to complexity. So you don't want to know the uninteresting stuff, but you definitely want to know you're safe. You want to make that as large and clear as possible, because that gives you comfort, that gives you peace of mind. And I think the key word here with respect to security is this thing that, let's say, we've been discussing for years now, which is progressive security. So when you don't have any money, like, don't make me set up a safe that is bulletproof and I need to go in the mountains to secure this in 5 locations because I don't have any money, like I have $1. Make the effort proportional and timely. Like, if I want to put $1 million, of course, there's a bit more warranted effort there that I would happily go through, and it doesn't break my mind. It's only when to apply a one-size-fits-all, let's say, a rule to people that come in for the first time, that just tourists. They've heard about this weird things called memes or these other assets that have just emerged, and they want to buy $10 of it. And then we want to teach them about rocket science and the bulletproofness of these wallets and so on, which is almost hilarious. But I think we're learning through that. And so I very much welcome this type of initiatives, and the idea of taking the steps, the effort, and then teaching people, but trying to make it default. Like, I'm having a wallet. This is, I can use it without anything, but then when I put $10, when I put $100, what's the point where you prompt me with this very simple thing that seems like a natural nudge, as opposed to teaching me everything that you know about security and all of that. But yeah, this, I feel we're already having the right conversation, and we're about a bit preaching to the choir here, but it's very welcome, I believe, to reinforce and reshare these simple things while having the highest level of bulletproofness. Because I do think that the paradox of maximum simplicity and intuitiveness and maximum non-custodiality and your keys and so on has been solved. You can have both of them, and you don't need to make a trade-off, at least for this thing. Maybe for some other things you still need, but that's the great part of the conversation I believe we're having.
And I do think when we talk about understanding DeRec or knowing about DeRec, I think that there is a world where the average person understands it, because when we think about securing passwords in the real world these days, right? before it was just passwords, and you had to teach people, don't just use numbers, don't just type in a regular word like password 123 or something like that. And people learned that. And then you add in 2FA, like SMS 2FA or email 2FA, and even non-technical people these days understand, oh, it says to go check your email, click on the link, and now you can get into your account. So I think that we see paradigm shifts as culture melds with technology, as people become familiar with things that are now at a point where it's so intuitive that you can just use it. We're now moving from managing your own passwords into password managers with, your phone now, your phone now taking care of your passwords, your Google account now taking care of your passwords, and then moving away from passwords completely into passkeys. And then I think DeRec fits right into that. And it's a very intuitive thing that we can set up here for people just be like, oh, I'm going to select these people. They're going to be my helpers. And then it sets up and the helpers understand what they're doing. And it just like sort of smoothly becomes part of the public consciousness. I think we can get there.
Man, I love what you're saying. So even passwords become invisible. As the world moves to passkeys, your phone just connects to the website and creates an account, and somehow magically it always knows you when you get there. And it's all invisible until you lose your passkey or you lose your phone. And for that, it should set up DeRec invisibly behind the scenes. And then it's simpler than what we have today. You don't have to think about passwords even. You don't even have to think about password managers. It's just all invisible. I love that. And if you're playing a game and they're doing tokenization of assets inside the game, even the fact that you have tokens can be invisible. All you know is you played this game and you got some stuff. It's only when you lose your computer that you realize, I need to ask them, how do I get it back? And they say, surprise, you had tokens and we were doing DeRec for you. So you're set.
I think it's an interesting idea too, to Ben's stance, where you talk about kind of this meeting the user where they're at for the level of engagement that the user needs, where, maybe at $1, it's a user, like, at least from my stance, and you guys are the ones that are the geniuses building it, but let the user kind of do what they want, but give them maybe suggestions where it's like, okay, we suggest 2 helpers, or maybe the baseline's 2 helpers for X amount of funds. But if you get up to like $1 million, it's like, hey, we suggest that maybe you have this institution that is also onboarded into DeRec. Maybe look into some having somebody else look at your funds, things like that, and having kind of this hierarchy. It's interesting. I want to move us towards kind of building the solution. And you guys are all coming at this, at the Decentralized Recovery Alliance from different angles, different networks, different protocols, wallets, infrastructure, all that. I'll start with Mark here. Algorand has done a really good job at kind of removing barriers to adoption, meeting people where they're at, making crypto seems, actually simple because it should be simple, and it's just working. How does DeRec fit into the vision that Algorand has for simplicity while maintaining, necessary things like security, everything else?
Yeah, I think it's actually quite important for us. And so just 2 weeks ago, we released an updated roadmap. And one of the core tenets of this roadmap is to go and attack friction and complexity wherever we find it, for developers, for businesses, and also for users. And so that's one of the core focus areas for us. And so if you think about it from a user perspective, one of the things that we're building kind of a completely new type of wallet, a wallet that's completely built from the ground up to attract non-techie users. And so we're fundamentally rethinking what a wallet should look like that makes a blockchain completely disappear. That means it will have identity at its core. So people will be able to kind of add their own identity, their verifiable credentials associated with this. We have a partnership with World Chess, who's going to use this as a global chess passport. So it starts with identity and the verifiable credential framework. And then on top of that, we basically abstract away all the complexity. So DeRec is going to be a core component of this. Liquid auth, which is a standards-based approach to kind of get rid of passports altogether by using OAuth and passkeys, is part of it. So you'll be able to use this crypto wallet to sign into any kind of Web2 website. And it's also used to actually remove the last vestige of decentralization in crypto, which is Wallet Connect. So it basically replaces a centralized mechanism for connecting a wallet to a dApp with a decentralized mechanism, which I think is really, really important. And then it goes after all of the other like friction points, like for instance, fee abstraction. Like, how is it if I send $10 to a friend of mine, I got to go buy algos or like the native currency of a blockchain? That makes no sense. So we're implementing fee abstraction, so the wallet provider can actually handle the fees as part of a subscription model or whatever the business model is that the wallet provider has. So it removes that friction points. So we basically looked at all the possible friction points that exist in the way people regularly use interface with a blockchain, and we're attacking all of them. And of course, DeRec is a core component of this new wallet.
So I have a sidebar for you, Mark. I did a video because we obviously did an article on the roadmap and stuff, but I also did a video, and I had like speculation in my head. I'm like, I wonder if Algorand's Rocca wallet, and I don't know if it's Rocca or Roca. I always mispronounce
it. Rocca, yeah, Rocca. Rocca is Italian for fortress, and of course, the first objective of a wallet is to keep your funds secure. Which
I was reading through the description of it. I'm like, and I said it in my video, so I'm like, I wonder if this uses DeRec, because it sounds like this is something that would almost have perfect synergy for DeRec. So that's awesome, and thanks for the confirmation. May, I want to move over to you. Wallets live and die by simplicity. Hashpack has kind of gotten all those kudos for like years for just the user experience, and I think it's an awesome user experience. For those of you guys that haven't checked it out, check it out. But how do you see DeRec fitting naturally into wallet use?
Yeah, well, like I said about having a paradigm shift, I think you can make this use of DeRec very intuitive for the user, where you put it in as part of the onboarding flow, where you just choose your helpers, or you find ways to secure it so that they can recover it. You give them prompts, the user prompts, so that they can, like right now, wallets already say, save your seed phrase, and then they make you check a checkbox to make sure you did save your seed phrase, and then maybe even write down, like show a few of the words in that seed phrase so that, on another screen, so that you make sure that it's somewhere. That's kind of like the most basic paradigm to at least make sure the user's written it down somewhere. But we can add in things like DeRec right into that flow so that it becomes even easier. And I think that, I hope one day we just do away with seed phrases completely, keep that in the background, and just have ways for the user to manage it while still staying true to this idea of self-sovereignty. But I think we can go there, and I think, I'm actually really excited about what Mark is doing with Rocca Wallet. That sounds fantastic. All of that sounds really, really good, and those are hurdles that we need to tackle to get that mainstream adoption and to get wider use of blockchain technology.
And of course, we'll open source everything, so anybody can pick any piece that they want of it.
Ben, I'm going to ask you a similar question to before, but I mean, I'd love if you could expand and tell us a little bit more just kind of about the ethos, because I think this is the first time, I know it's the first time I've had the opportunity to interview you guys, but from the DeRec standpoint as well, being the kind of the new member, we talked about on-chain 2FA, just, fitting naturally into that ethos and just like the expansion of user experience, security, things like that. Anything else that you can kind of think of that kind of ties in DeRec, where you see this going, where you see the relationship going, and just where you felt that synergy? I would love if you could, tell us some more.
100%. And again, really great to be here and have this conversation. I think if I'll maybe share two thoughts. One is almost first principle in some sense, but if you zoom out and look at humanity, where we are right now, it's almost we've invented in some sense this idea of a kind of safe state. You're in a document, you're in some situation, and you have the Control S. And people, like, whatever you do, whether that's a game or that's something really important, imagine for a second that you don't have the safe state yet invented and discovered. How wrong and how strange that situation immediately puts you in. There's a discomfort that you feel and have felt throughout your life whenever you've written something or have been working for hours at something, and then for whatever reason you lost that thing. And I think we all remember that feeling of how strange it is after one day or whatever you lost that thing. It's similar with money. And I believe that maybe one level where DeRec will strike a chord in the broader audience, even beyond Web3, is this idea where beyond the Control S, beyond the safe state part, you need the censorship resistant element. And although that sounds a bit abstract at first, like that's just a natural progression of a saved state. How do you make sure that once I've saved this, you cannot edit it, fake it, or just censor it or modify it in a way where it's crucial, it's safety critical to actually not have it modified in any way. And I think maybe that's a kind of language that people would understand, especially in banking, especially in any type of safety critical environment, because they deal with that, and it's very, very natural in some sense meeting them where they are. And then to the extent that you abstract it and tie it to something, which brings me to the second point, tie it to something like maybe digital testament for the future or value time capsule that you would send yourself or to your kids. And just as a bottle that you set on the water, where you put in some messages and then hope that someone receives it at some point and so on. And that makes of a interesting, imaginative journey. I feel that the moment where you tie it to something and you show it to people, and that you can leave something for your kids, and then no one can destroy this, no one can steal your seed phrase, no one can just take it away, and they'll be able to have it maybe in 20 years from now. That's something that puts you in a very, very different state, that's more about seeing this technology adopted at scale, and then what's needed to actually see that happen. So again, very much appreciate the efforts, because that's hardcore. Usually it takes a lot of time until we are ready to simplify it enough and the world is ready to connect it to the problems they have. And that's an entire process. But I feel the moment where we are at right now is, it seems we're right before this inflection in geopolitics, in banking, in financial services, and we've survived this this journey through the desert for many, many years. And now we're having the right conversations, and we're ready to share them with the next billion users, or maybe next billion agents. Who knows? Who knows which comes first?
I know the quote from when you guys joined, Ben, and I'll read it real quick, and then I've got a question for Lehman. But Ben's quote from MultiversX joining the DeRec Alliance was, the DeRec protocol hits that rare balance, an open standard backed by some of the biggest players in crypto, aligned with our values and built for the real world. MultiversX is excited to contribute and help shape a safer future for digital ownership, which is exactly what we've been talking about today. Lehman, I wanted to ask, and then I'm going to ramp down here after this question, but where should decentralized recovery sit on Web3 or blockchain or whatever term we're using on the priority list for this this entire space? And why has it taken so long for this industry to tackle it?
Okay, it needs to be one of the top priorities. We as a Web3 world are really into what we do, but the other 99% of the planet has no clue. And we have to understand that the average user has no clue. We need to make it safe. We need to make it easy. Mark, you talked about doing everything to reduce friction. May, you talked about how you're reducing friction in your wallet to make it really easy. We have to do that. We have to think about ordinary people. Ordinary people don't want to learn the complexity and don't want to lose everything they own due to complexity they didn't understand. We have to do that. And so at the DeRec Alliance, we have been putting a lot of effort into making it easy for people to implement this. We have the standard is open source, and everyone can see the standard and come join us and help manipulate, add to the standard, manage it. In addition, we've created open source software libraries to make it easy for you to do this and be interoperable. And so all of the protocol is sending messages back and forth. We have the libraries that will create and interpret and handle those messages and do all the cryptography stuff. And so you can just use that library. And if you simply use that library, you are guaranteed to be interoperable. And you said, why haven't we done it before? Well, everybody's done it. Everyone has their own solution for backups. The problem is they're not interoperable. And the problem is we didn't have this trusted third-party organization that's not just one blockchain. It's not just one person. It is this collaboration across the industry until now. And that's what the DeRec Alliance is. And there is no competing DeRec Alliance, because anyone with any sense would say, I don't want to compete. I want to come make the standard better. The world doesn't need two standards. It needs one standard that's better. And so we've ended up with this standard becoming very good. It is post-quantum. Quantum computers can't break it. It pings the person you're talking to every day, your helpers every day, to see if they still have your secret. It is designed to do key ratcheting and all sorts of cool things for security. It is designed across the board to be easy. And now we have the ability to have this library, and it automatically creates wrappers in dozens of languages. And we are doing everything we can to make it easy for people to implement and to talk to each other. And so I think this should be one of the very top priorities in the Web3 world, because if we want the other 99% of humanity to use Web3 stuff, we have to fix this problem.
I think that pretty much nails it. And I'll go kind of with what May said earlier too, which is it really has to kind of be easy, and it's open to anybody to kind of join DeRecAlliance.org, as I've mentioned. And I kind of want to, let me ramp down here and do kind of round robin. Lehman, I think one of the questions on everybody's head, and I think Mark kind of alluded to it too, with DeRec potentially being integrated into Rocco. When do we expect to see DeRec in use, like live application use? I'm sure everybody would love to kind of hear what your broad thoughts, Lehman, I guess.
Generally in the near future. So I think we'll see it this year. We have made it easy for wallets to use it, and I think wallets will roll it out. Probably they will roll it out as an experimental feature for only the experts first, just to make sure that it's working well, and then we'll open it up to everybody, and then we'll make it automatic and invisible. I know it's already built into the bank software and the credit union software, and it just does its thing invisibly, which is good. And so I think that we're going to see a careful rollout. Everybody wants to be careful, especially with things dealing with money, but we're going to see a careful rollout of this. We will see that happening this year. Maybe this year, maybe next year, we'll start seeing people do helper as a service. You can have a whole business where you are a professional helper. Why not? So I think we'll see all of that.
Awesome. And I want to do round robin here. So you can either take it whatever direction you want, but forward-looking statements, what you guys are excited about for the future, DeRec, industry-wide, however you want to kind of go. And, you know, I think Lehman alluded to it earlier as well. Different industries that initiatives like DeRec can show up, not just crypto, but passwords and all sorts of things, identity. It's going to be really interesting to watch. But what are you guys all excited about for the future, for DeRec or the industry as a whole? Let me start with Ben, since we've never had Ben on before. What are you excited about for the future? And thanks for joining us again today, Ben.
100%. I think I'm maximally excited about adoption and distribution. And then I believe that we're now removing some of the most important bottlenecks that we've had. And some of them were almost invisible, like the idea of regulation that doesn't choke you to death, but actually enables you to build something, like the idea of a market structure. And I feel if we take that, security is also a choke point, one of the largest choke points that's, again, invisible. So removing those makes one point clear. The people that want to come in will survive in larger numbers to reach the point that we want them to reach. And then at the same time, making things simpler, more useful, more sexy, will just enable even more people to join and play and so on. So I think extending this, just applying it to AI, agents and agentic systems and so on, will just scale the value of it, because that's even more money that's being lost or will be lost unless it's saved in a certain way. So quite excited to see this actually play out, to discuss this from a standpoint where this is not an idea for the next 10 years. It's here. It can be used in different forms by the different ecosystems. And I think it's upward from here in terms of adoption, and hopefully less pain for the users that are about to come in. We've done this with MultiversX, but love to see this with DeRec and all the participants that are implementing that.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. I caught my train of thought real quick. So I'm going to mention what I was going to say before I asked Ben that question. I thought it was a really good point earlier, very earlier, when May was talking about, a lot of these centralized solutions. Like, what happens if they go down? What happens if they go away and you have stuff parked there 5, 6, 7 years down the line? So for things to be decentralized and open standards and open source is so incredibly, important. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why this does kind of get widely adopted, at least in my opinion, because it's like, why wouldn't you use something like this? Let me move over to May, what you're excited about for the future. One of the busiest people I know in crypto, May, is always in meetings and building and doing stuff. But May, what are you excited about for Hashpack, DeRec, or the ecosystem?
Well, I think that DeRec has a really good momentum behind it. We have people that are working real hard to build out those libraries and contribute. And I am excited because the working group for DeRec has been very friendly, very open. And it's been a pleasure to work with everybody in the team and see progress. And everybody's very respectful, very professional, and I just love that. So I would, if there's any developers or any platforms out there that are listening to this, I would encourage you to check out the DeRec Alliance and join in on our meetings and contribute where you can, or take a look at using the repos and putting it into your own platforms. That'd be fun. And then for everybody else who is just a consumer, who's a user, you guys are so important because you're going to be the ones that are using this. Get excited about it. Talk about it to your friends. Talk about it on Twitter or X. And just make sure people know about DeRec because this is so important. And then talk about to your grandma, because I think she'll understand it too. It's a very easy to understand system when you just obfuscate all of the boring crypto tech stuff, and you just talk about, you're just sharing things with your friends, and then when you need help, you ask them and they get you your secrets back.
Awesome. Thank you, May. Mark, thoughts on the future, what you're excited about? And this was the second time I've had Mark on a podcast in 5 days. So thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Solomon. So when you take a step back, right? Web3 is all about ownership, right? Ownership of your data, ownership of your money, ownership of your identity. But people are really bad with ownership. You just have to look at the password example, right? People forget their passwords. Luckily, somebody can actually recover passwords. People take stupid passwords. People put post-it notes of their passwords on their screen. And what most people don't realize is crypto is cash. Whoever owns the private keys owns your cash. So it's not just about the risk of losing your private keys. What is the security mechanism that you use to back up your private keys? I'm pretty sure most people don't have the proper security practices in mind because they don't realize that private key is the same as cash. And so moving into this kind of world of ownership of data and money and identity will not happen unless there is a mechanism in place to make sure that this happens in a secure way. And that's why I'm so excited about DeRec, because that is the missing piece. This is what needs to happen at scale for people to be able to move into a self-sovereign kind of Web3-like world. And that's what makes me super excited about this. I think we have the solution. Now we just have to get it done.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. And then Lehman, I'll close out with you. What you're excited about for the future.
I am absolutely, the thing I am most excited about are the people on this call and in the DeRec Alliance that are building this stuff. May, I love what you are doing with your building wallets where you are focused on making this easy for users. And Mark, I loved how you talked about how you're building wallets and you're trying to reduce friction. And Benjamin, you've laid out several different parts of the path to the future and the things we need to keep in mind as we're building it. I love what you're building. And these three people are indicative of what other people in the Alliance are doing right now. This is by far the thing that I am most excited about, is just the wonderful way the people in this alliance are working together and just individually building the future. And it is a privilege to be along with all these people. And I think that we together are going to solve a real problem that humanity has. Thank you.
Awesome. I wanted to mention you guys can go to genfinity.io and check out. We have multiple articles on DeRec. I'm not even going to count. There's just, you can see all of them here. MultiversX. There's some broader articles, Hedera and Cardano, all that stuff. But mainly, if you're interested in joining the Alliance, go to DeRecAlliance.org. You can get all the information that you would ever be interested in to join. Super simple to join. It's the top link right up, literally whenever the website loads. And I want to definitely thank this panel today. And let's not make this the last one that we do. It's always awesome to do the Decentralized Recovery Alliance podcasts. And Mark, thank you so much from the Algorand Foundation. Ben from MultiversX, May from Hashpack, and Dr. Lehman Baird. Hang out with me for a second, guys, as I end this recording and make sure that I have yours as well.
Thanks, Solomon. It has been great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Pleasure.